In prison, I got 3 months remission, 28 days bread and water, and all your privileges took away. Well, I just burst out laughing. I said, what privileges? Breathing?
In 2012, we interviewed Ronnie Diamond.
I wound up the front line in Korea, and there's 3 dead bodies laying there. And I happened to say to the geezer, what's them lazy kids doing laying down there? He said, they're dead. I mean, you're joking. He went, no. He said, they're as dead as a doornail. Look at them. It was horrible.
As a former London gang member, Ronnie was no stranger to violence, imprisonment and organised crime. He associated with notorious figures and navigated the harsh criminal underworld.
We had a gang from the Angel, who they called the Diamond Gang. And it used to be me, Johnny Nash, and about 40 or 50 other people. And we used to go across the water fighting the gangs. Oxton, who used to chase that mob all round the place. You had to fight in the street. Why it was called a straightener, you didn't use weapons. And you didn't kick, you didn't bite, you didn't scratch. You had just use your fists to have to fight. And that's why they called it a straightener. A straight fight. And they always shook hands with one another after it. It was most peculiar. You could hate somebody and say, all right, get in the road. Have a row with him, bash him up or he bash you up, and you'd shake hands and walk away. Friends. I got arrested for assaulting a girl. I just clumped her. And her father was an ex-policeman. So he decided to charge me. And because I didn't think nothing of it. I mean, I never really hurt the girl. And I got took to the juvenile court, sentenced to remanded in custody. Then I went back and I got 1 to 3 years imprisonment because I pleaded guilty to it. Thought no good trying to fight it. But that's when I met Charlie. He said, if I go over the wire, will you hold the screws back? So I said, all right. There's about 8 of us. And he got back to the wall and I went, go on. And he took one run up the wall and the screws tried to grab him and we got hold of him and pulled him back and he was over. I didn't see him no more until I got sent to Erywood Approved School. The headmaster, Mr. Beanie, called me up. He wanted to talk to me. So I went down and see him. He said, we've got a fella come here that I want you to look after. His name's Charlie Richardson. So I said, well, I know him. So he said, yeah, I know you know him. He said, but I'm going to put you in charge of him. I said, hold up, if he does anything wrong, we're going to blame me for it? So he went, well, yeah. I lived, Central Street was heaps of ruins. That's where the Barbican is. That was one mountain of ruin. Because they used to dump all the debris there when they was clearing up London. And all the shops, a lot of the shops were bombed out. You used to go in and take whatever you wanted to take. Nobody seemed to take any notice of you, really, at that time, because, I mean, anyone bombed out couldn't really know what they had left in the shop. But my mum and dad, they were so straight that I used to be frightened to take anything crooked home, because my mother was only about 5 foot or 4'11", and she would clump you right round the ear hole. She wouldn't have nothing to do with anything stolen or crooked. She was so straight, it was untrue. When I was about 18, I got called up into the army, conscripted. And you either went in the army for 2 years or you got 9 months imprisonment if you didn't go. And I got sent to Germany, and one of my sisters got married. I asked to come back to England for a wedding, which they allowed me to do. I come right back to England, and when the regiment come back to England, and I got sent to Canterbury. I didn't like it, it was too quiet. So I went on the trot, and my father said to me, you better give yourself up, you know, keep having the police come round here with you. I said, well, I don't really want to go back to Canterbury, Dad. So he went, well, do me a favour, go and give yourself up for God's sake, he said, because they're driving me mad. So I said, all right. Anyway, after about a month, I'll give myself up. After a fortnight, they come in and put me on a lorry. They said, you're going to Southampton. I said, what for? They said, you're going to Korea. I went, you're joking. Because I didn't know what. I've seen Korea on the pictures when I went to pictures on the news, and it didn't look too healthy to me. So, got in Korea, I was in Busan. Then all of a sudden they come in, they went, you're going up the front line. And I wound up the front line in Korea. Never seen anything like it. I was talking to a pal of mine one day, and I was right near my bunker. And all of a sudden we heard these shells coming over. I dived down the bunker, and my mate was right on the corner of the bunker where the shell landed and blew him to bits. And I thought, oh God, I was frightened to death out there, I was. I mean, another night morning I come out there and there's 3 dead bodies laying there, and I happened to say to the geezer, what's them lazy kids doing laying down there? He said, they're dead. They're as dead as a doornail, look at them. And it was horrible. Well, it hadn't changed too much, but see, I wound up coming out of there very, very bitter, because I've just had 2 years of my life took away with me. I'm stuck in the front line where I could have got killed. So I thought, well, while I've had all that, I might as well do one thing, become a thief. I met about 4 or 5 people, and we decided to start robbing banks. And that's what I was doing. First time I ever went in prison, you couldn't talk to anybody, you couldn't back chat to a screw, or you got bread and water, and you was made to sit in your cell. I got a month in the cell. You got a cob in the morning, and all the water you could drink, and you were starving. I got 28 days bread and water, and all your privileges took away. Well, I just burst out laughing. I said, what privileges? Breathing? I went to Wandsworth, and Eddie Richardson was in the cell next to me, and coming down for breakfast one morning, and somebody was behind me, and I happened to look round, and it was Jackie Rosa with a salt pot in a sock, swung it at me, and I ducked it and grabbed his legs, tipped him up, and he hit his head on the floor, knocked him spark out, and the screws come and jumped on me. put us down in the chokey wing, and they put Jackie Rosa next to me. So he's shouting out to me, "Diamond?" I went, "Yeah." I got up the window. I said, "What do you want?" He said, "I made a mistake. I thought you was Eddie Richardson." And I said, "Well, you didn't look too hard, did you?" He said, "I'm very, very sorry." He said, "I didn't mean to do that. I meant to get hold of Eddie Richardson." Well, the 60s to me was some of the best years of your life, because you had all the music, you had the clubs. You could go and open up a club for 5 shillings. Just go to the post office, get a licence and open up a club. I used to go down the Astor a lot, me and my wife. That's where you went and had a drink. And you'd have all different gangs in there. I mean, Charlie Richardson used to go in there. The Craze went in there. Fraser and them, they went in there. You had no wars in there because it was like sort of the local watering hole where everybody met and had a drink, and that was it. So I mean, I had a club, the Senate Rooms, and Eddie and Charlie and Frank, they put this music machine in my club. And what they'd done, every 2 or 3 months they'd come and empty the machine, give me a third, and they took 2/3, which was fair enough. I mean, it wasn't costing me nothing. And I was quite pleased with that. But they had machines all over the place. And Frank used to go around putting machines in different clubs now and getting a good living, because it was very profitable there. People, you say, "Oh, you want to be careful with him, he's all right." Nah. Well, I just laughed. I said, "There ain't 2 pence of him. He's only little." And the Screws were very, very frightened of him. Because, I mean, all right, he's only little, Frank, but he was so game, it was untrue. He was too game for his own good. And, I mean, people like me wouldn't live in fear of him. To me, he was nothing. He was just somebody who wanted to jump on your back and stab you in the back. Or he'd pull a gun on you, if he had a gun. His reputation was that he got to a stage where people used to say, "Oh no, we're not having it with him." But as I say, my own personal feelings about him, I don't find him a bad fella. It was a job. It was a job you was doing. You was involved in either villainy or going to cut somebody for somebody. It was a job. You was getting paid to do it. It wasn't you just done it out of self-satisfaction, because you didn't. It was something that you could do for somebody. There was rules years ago that you didn't hurt anybody who done you any good. Somebody who done you good, you left them completely alone. It's like a thief wouldn't go and steal off a straight man. And that is true. They won't. No matter how much you. But to go and rob a bank is nothing. You just walk in and rob the bank. That's quite easy. I mean, I'd rob a bank for money, but it was the thrill of getting the money. You go, "Oh, we got this amount of money." You walk out with 100 grand, you think, "Oh, you've had it off." and that was it. Yeah, Charlie Craig. Oh, he was right grass. So was Reggie Craig. Ronnie Craig wasn't. He didn't have the brains. He didn't have the brains of anybody, him. But Reggie Craig was so crafty, and he would grass you as soon as look at you and make out he's a good fella. It's not acceptable at all to anybody. I mean, don't go and do something and the next minute you got the police tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Oh, you done so and so." So, did I? Who told you that? Oh, well, we know. Well, what it done to me, the amount of time I've done, I suppose I've done about 20 odd years. It makes you very, very bitter. Because you see the worst side of human beings, especially screws. They're sadistic. They want to bash you up 8 or 9-handed and come in the cell and give you a good kicking, you know, to try and subdue you. It's the way they was treating people. It was a lot of combination of things, you know, a lot of things that was happening that shouldn't have been happening.
This prison officer said I cut one of his ears off and they couldn't find it. Of course they couldn't, because I put it down the toilet, flushed the chain, and it's floating somewhere off the Isle of Wight.
In 2011, we sat down with Frankie Fraser to find out the truth about his life of crime.
I wasn't shy, I'd use anything. Hammer, knife, brick, you name it, I'd use it.
Running up, speed.
Mad Frankie Fraser, one of the most feared and respected London crime lords. A notorious torturer and hitman who worked as an enforcer for London's most feared gang leaders. Declared insane twice, he spent 42 years behind bars.
The guy who said I pulled his teeth out, he approached Eva, best pal I've ever had, you know, not only my sister, wonderful pal, said, "If you give me so much money, Eva, I'll tell the truth." So Eva took him to a solicitor. He made a statement saying he told the police a pack of lies, and they then dropped him home. Elby Woods was Eva's chauffeur. They then dropped him home. He went straight to the police and said they threatened him. And the solicitor just told the truth. He said, no, she just introduced him and took no further part in the conversation. When I was doing that 20 years, wouldn't I loved it if I could have been in my cell going, oh, what a good job you made of that back molar. It wasn't true though, unfortunately. My poor sister got 3 years because she was nicked for conspiring to pervert the course of justice. She had been a terrific shoplifter. Then she got married, got caught, went to prison for shoplifting, and that, when she then went dead straight. I'll never forgive her. I didn't have to buy my own shirts. Oh, wonderful. I'll never forgive Hitler for surrendering. Well, it was such a wonderful time in the war. Well, everything was rationed and you could get whatever you wanted and sell it on and all over the country and everything. Of course, once the war was over, a lot of them things that were rationed wasn't then. And things were evening out then a bit, yeah. They were wonderful days of war. Well, my sister Eva, she knew the Richardsons through her husband. She couldn't speak highly enough of them, what terrific guys they were. And that's how I come to meet them. Well, they're in the scrap metal business and car business and everything. You name it, they were in it. They'd have a go at anything. You couldn't wish to meet two more hard-working guys. They were really good. Not all honest, but nowhere near that people think, or as the police or the authorities made them out to be. No, nowhere near that. They were two hard-working guys. Well, out of the two, I liked Eddie better, yes. But nothing, because I liked him better, nothing to do that Charlie wasn't any good or anything. It's just that I got on with Eddie better than I got on with Charlie. It's simple as that. Couldn't meet two nicer guys. Well, you set up a business just as a swindling business. Make no doubt about that. And you do all the right things to make it look really good. And then when the swindling was going very well, everyone was happy. And you just disappeared, yeah. It was wonderful days. No, strangely enough, they didn't have to, because they were very hard-working guys, and they started up legitimate businesses. They didn't have to go into any long firms or anything. Charlie was exceptionally good, but I think in the long run, Eddie would be more solid as a businessman than Charlie, yeah. It's a very difficult thing, because they were both very bright. They're two very good businessmen. It's hard to tell who was the best out of the two of them. I was with Eddie, and Charlie was mostly, then his business was all over the world. It wasn't hardly in England very long at a time. So I was with Eddie, working very hard on that. So I didn't really know too much about Charlie. It was as simple as that. We hardly ever see him. He was always all over the world, out in South Africa, wasn't he, in the mine there and that. Like a lot of brothers, they could fall out now and again and daft little things. But 2 or 3 days later, they'd be back together again. And they were very close brothers. Well, I knew the West End very well. As a boy, when I was just left school, I used to work for Boots the Chemist in Piccadilly Circus and Oddham's Press on a bike. So I used to go to all the clubs delivering medicine or picking things up and that. And that's how I got to know the West End very well. And then went into it full time. Well, you knew exactly them that wasn't doing very good. You just pumped money into it and got a share in it and then went all the way. Well, that was down to Billy Hill. He could see I was doing not bad. He said, go in for the machines, Fred. I've got someone who can get you all of them and everything. And that's how I come to go in them. And they were very good. Especially then, you know, not long after the war and all that. It was good. Atlantic Machines, that was the name of our company, Atlantic Machines. Oh, of course there was, yeah, but and clubs were happy to have our machines in, our one-armed bandits, because they knew if anybody started mucking about with our machines, then we'd soon be round there to, you know, see it didn't happen again or anything like that. We were really two hard-working, straight guys. As simple as that, yeah. We're talking about 200 or 300, say, more. Yeah, making very good money, yeah. And shows you, when I was doing that 20 years, then my wife got her money every month or every week, all the way through. And I'd done all the 20, remember. Lost all my remission, everything. She got her money all the time, yeah, from the machines. I'd just come out of prison, and my sister told me what terrific guys they were, where they'd helped her husband get a job or something, and she introduced me to them. They used to fetch my sister to visit me in prisons all over the country. And she couldn't speak highly enough of them, what absolute gentlemen they were, and I liked them, yeah. So you've got to remember I was 10 years or more older than them. And I'd drink with their father, this is during the war, of that. And pubs then used to shut at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and open about 6 or 7 in the evening. Well, when the pubs shut at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd normally go to an afternoon club or go for something to eat. And sometimes I'll go home with their father, Reggie and Ronnie's dad, and have a meal. And they were back from evacuation. And they used to call me Uncle Frank. Years later, we had a good laugh about it. Uncle Frank? We had a great laugh about it, yeah. So I knew them in that sense more than I knew the Richardsons, like that. Well, just so happened another little gang was in there and they were looking for trouble and they sort of went for us. And naturally that was their mistake. We went for them then. I was lucky, I got injured and won the fight. He was unlucky, he lost. Terrific, that's when I was nicked for murder, innit? I was lucky, I was the only one nicked for murder, no one else. The jury retired, the hours went by. Cell doors unlocked under the Old Bailey. Jury back. Remember, if found guilty then when I'd have been hung. Jury back up then 12 steps into court number 1. Clerk of the court, Mr. Foreman, have you reached a decision on count 1 murder? Yes, sir. Is that the verdict if you won and all? Yes, sir. What is that verdict on count 1 murder? Guilty or not guilty? As the foreman went, not guilty. Sort of winked, I winked back. We went to the same school together and played in the same football team. What a bit of luck, wasn't it? Yeah, what a bit of luck. Well, I got caught. Bit of everything. Hammer, knife. It's a great night. George Cornell, he grew up with the Cray twins. He knew them better than we could ever know them. He grew up with them. But he fell in love with a girl called Olive Hutt, who come from round here, married her and moved over here to South London, and they held that against him, as if he deserted them. He'd just been to visit, I think, little Jimmy Andrews, who'd been shot in the leg. Him and LB Woods. And as they were coming away, George see the blind beggar. Oh, he said, look, the old blind beggar. LB, let's go in there for a drink. And they went in, and someone told Ronnie, and that's why they hated him then, because he deserted them and moved over here. And they thought he'd moved over to the Richardsons, which wasn't true at all. And that's why he got shot dead. Simple as that, for no reason at all. I'm going to say South Londoners are much better than East Londoners, because after all, I was born in South London. Yeah, it's always been very good. And no different now, more or less. Except now you've got more people from all over the world than you did then. No harm in that, I enjoy it. I do understand, where some people might get annoyed because they come from other countries. I understand. With my dad from Canada and his mum a Red Indian, mum Irish, we were looked down on at school. Because we couldn't say we're going around Aunt Mary's or Uncle Harry's because they were all in other countries. So I do understand, yeah. That is perfectly true, yes. And anybody who didn't obey them rules, they were soon bashed up. We had a rows with one another, yeah. But ordinary nice guys who went to work and that, no. Definitely not. Unless somehow or other it's happened and there's nothing you could do about it. But otherwise you didn't go out your way for it, no. Not that type. Any rows you had was only amongst yourselves. If you hurt or killed one another, so what? So you must remember, in prison, I'd always be in trouble. And no matter what prison I was in, no matter how hard or whatever, I would still stick up for my rights and fight them. And if a fellow prisoner was badly beaten up by the officers, I would go to his aid or to help him and do whatever I could. I am very small, but nevertheless there's no way I would give in just couldn't be, that wouldn't be me, I wouldn't be like that. Whatever prison I went in, I would always be in trouble, because you'd get the prison officers, when they see I was about as fat as that then, and it was always on bread and water and punishment diets and that. And when they see me, they thought the little cockney so-and-so, we put him in his place, and they went out their way to make life that more grimmer for me, and I wouldn't stand for that, I'd fight them back. So therefore that made me name over the years get bigger and bigger and that, yeah. That's how it was. Yeah, I could have a go at anything. I wasn't a very good fist fighter because I was too small. But I'd love to fight, yeah. I would never say no. I wasn't shy, I'd use anything. Hammer, knife, anything, brick, you name it, I'd use it. Of course I then certified insane and sent to Broadmoor. You could have a laugh, and this guy at Broadmoor stood all day long like this. So I made inquiries, and they said, Frank, he thinks it's an electric light bulb. So this day I'm bored to tears, I crept up behind him and said, I've switched you off. Put me back on, switch me back. The Broadmoor officer said, Fraser, put his plug back. So I went, put your plug back. He went, oh, thank you. Well, it was completely not like a trial should be, to be honest. Any good points you were coming up with, the judge was doing his best to knock them down. Not like the prosecuting counsel doing his best, the judge himself. It was ridiculous. You've got to remember, Charlie and Eddie had hardly ever been in, well, Eddie had hardly ever been in trouble in his life. And Charlie, I think, had only been to prison once, about 6 months. So really they knew nothing about courts or anything, and they used to ask me how it was going. Though they could see it was going very bad, but they just asked me, what do you think, Frank? And I just had to tell them the truth. It looks very bad. Charlie and Eddie, I really felt sorry for them, because they were two very hard-working fellas. You know, they run a straight business and everything, and all of a sudden they're nicked for a lot of it that was completely rubbish, completely. They wouldn't have got away with it today, no way. And they got all that time when they were the most honest guys you could ever come across. They worked hard and everything. Looking back now, it's incredible. Went to prison for all them years. Well, I was already doing 5 years, wasn't I? When I was nicked for murder, but got found not guilty of murder, but guilty of some minor charge I got 5 years on. So I was doing 5 years when I was nicked with Charlie and Eddie. I got another 20 then. No, another 15. Then another 5 for leading the riot at Parkhurst Prison. Well, that was the game I was in at the time, so it's all in the game. It's simple as that. Just one of them things you have to put up with. It's something in that world that could happen to you. When I led the riot at Parkhurst Prison, and this prison officer said I cut one of his ears off and they couldn't find it. Of course they couldn't. As I put it down the toilet, flushed the chain, and it's floating somewhere off the Isle of Wight. And for the rest of his career, he was known as Ear Harry. Anyway, I'm doing 15 years there. I'm found guilty. Found not guilty of some bad charges, but guilty. Judge, anything to say? I said, yes, my lord. I realise you'll have to increase my sentence, but could you please make it up into even numbers, as I hate odd numbers. So he had a smile on his face. I thought, well, I cracked it here. Might only give me a year, make it 16, or 3, make it 18. I took in consideration your dislike of odd numbers. I will have to increase your sentence, but I will make it up into even numbers. I'll give you another 5 years consecutive. That'll make it 20 even numbers. I shouted out, you dirty so-and-so. He said, take him away. And I've done a lot. Lost all my remission and everything, done every day. No, I won't, because I know I'll get a very good job with him down below. I'll be a good stoker. I don't regret it, though. No, because I'd seen a lot of good friends who was at school with me and that, who were dead straight, good hard-working guys. I see the damage it done to them. It knocked all the life out of them, sort of style. They were just like plodders along, going to work and that. No, definitely not. I know it sounds strange to someone who works hard and everything, but that's how I see it anyway. No regrets, no. Except one. Surely you know what that is. Getting caught.
On the 6th of May 1968, the Cray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, were arrested for the murders of George Cornell and Jack the Hat McVitie. In an operation led by Scotland Yard's Leonard Nipper Reid, their entire firm was also hunted down and arrested, including Freddie Foreman.
200 odd years was dished out that day in that court, all for their stupidity. It came as a complete shock.
This is his story about life after nearly everyone in the firm was arrested for murder.
I never saw another prisoner apart from the people I was in that wing with, and I never saw a blade of grass or leaf of a tree, so I was there for 4.5 years. It was a great time in after the war, you know, and there was a lot of money to be earned then, you know, with all the electrical goods coming into the country. We'd never seen over cleaners and washing machines and refrigerators, but everyone wanted them, didn't they? And if you could supply them at a third of the price, that was, you know, there was exorbitant prices for the normal person in the street, the working class. And I used to come and buy all of the gear. I used to have all the electrical goods and anything crooked, you know, jump up for the lorries and all that stuff. I had about 4 lockups at Iron Hill and dotted about over in Roman Road. For Charlie, I got put in a lockups down there, back of a public house. There's a big lock. And petrol stations, they used to put these lockups there and used to rent them out, and then they'd load them up with all the gear, all the crooked gear, you know, run them straight in there, and then make the list up and who's getting married and whose birthday is it and whose anniversary is it, and then you'd supply the goods to make it pleasant for them at a cheap price. And it was a thriving industry for people like myself, you know. We could empty the greys and all them electrical shops for them and sell them at a third of the price, you know. He was a buyer, Charlie. He worked for a big buyer. He was only working for this guy, this Stan, who was a buyer. He had the money, but Charlie was young then, he was working for him. But that's how we formed a relationship, and that went on for years. So we made quite a bit of money and got popularity. I've always, you know, when I was a teenager, I had a bit of a reputation. I was boxing for the Battersea Boxing Club, and I had a bit of a following, and a lot of screaming girls are there, used to come. And I managed to have a few good fights, you know, about 20 odd fights, and I'd be old nose fixed afterwards because I had it broken a couple of times, and I used to get sorted out. And when there was no clubs or places to go in the 40s after the war ended, it's coffee stalls, you know, for the teenagers. Then you used to go to a coffee store and have a pork pie and a hot meat pie and a sausage sandwich and meat and onion sandwich, and staying on. And there was always just like Clapham Common and the World's End, Chelsea, and Wandsworth Road, the Elephant and Castle, Tooting Beck. All over London was coffee stalls, and if you wanted to meet anyone and pick up girls to take home and all that sort of thing, that was the places you went, you know. And then, but there was always little squabbles and little reputations made, and I found myself not doing it myself. Oh, Fred could beat your man, and you go down the side of the coffee stall, down the side of the road, and have a straightener. They'd make a circle, and you'd have a straightener, a fight, you know, like bare knuckle fight, you know. That was how your reputation, you know. I fought in every one of them. What I just mentioned, I had a fight in every one of them. He said, "We go taking you over there this week, Fred. We're going over there to." I was being manipulated even then. I'm a sucker for being manipulated, me. That's why I kept out. I'm easily led, you see. I mean, it was years and years of, you know, they would wind up getting nicked and arrested for something. But you thought there's so many stories and rumours were going around and nothing ever happened. And then all of a sudden it did, you know, it hit the fan, you know. They had this feeling of, you know, invincible. That's what they thought they were, but a big mistake. Where they lived in Valence Road, the twins had moved to this council apart flat. They was expecting me to come over and have a chat with them about something or other. And Charlie was going to be there as well. And so I hadn't seen them for quite some time. So when I arrived there, I would go into the building and I'd come out of the lift and there's a street door laying there and it's full of police officers, all uniformed coppers. And I walked straight past them, just looked a bit surprised and just walked right past them and carried on walking down the end of the corridor. And I got as far as I could to the last house before the exit doors, you know, the fire exit place. And I knocked on the door and a young lady answered the door and had a little baby in her arms and that. I said, do you mind? I said, doing me a big favour. I said, can I come in for a couple of minutes? I was coming to see Mr. and Mrs. Gray. I said, but look, you see what's going on? Oh, she said, oh, come in quick. So she took me in and sat me down and made me a cup of tea and having a little play with the baby there. And she said they smashed the door down. There'd been murders here all day long and the police coming and going and everything. And I said, well, if I could stay a little while till it calms down, if you wouldn't mind, and then I'll be out your way. And so that's what I did. I stayed for about half an hour and thanked her and came out and said cheerio, goodbye, and they were still standing up there, the police in the corridor, and I walked past them and got in the lift and came down the stairs. It's amazing that they never recognised me or, you know, tumbled who I was. And of course, that's me. I was gone then. I was on my toes then after that, and I would stay in all different places all around London. I thought, well, what can I do? I just got to lay low for a little while, and I knew that I was wanted, and I had the pub at the time, you know, the Prince of Wales, so they'd steamed in there, heavy-handed, and looking for me. I'd made a few inquiries and they said it was safe to go home, see? But I was given misinformation because when I was only in the pub for half an hour and I had a quick meeting with some friends of mine and discussed a few things, and I left and I went to my car outside. I had a Mercedes outside. I walked to it and they come from everywhere and arrested me and took me to the one next to the MI5 building on the embankment of Vauxhall. Well, I'd finished up going to Brixton, to what they call the Cottage. It's a prison within Brixton Prison. It's only, you know, for special cases, high-profile cases. And it's just about 10 cells there, you know. And of course, that's when I got there. There was Charlie and Reggie and Ronnie there, and a couple of other faces. And because I never had a lot to do with any of them, I only dealt with the twins and Charlie. I never socialised or had much to say to any of the others involved with their little firm. And things went from bad to worse, you know. All the witnesses that what they thought they could rely on, all the making statements right, left and centre, and it just suddenly we really was in big trouble. You know, I could see that there was no in, no out with this. There was too much evidence against them, more so them than myself. And then all of a sudden a statement appeared and naming me and as an accessory to the fact of The Jack the Hat disappearance and so forth. Oh, I thought I knew that would happen when they dropped him over to the next couple of turnings away from where my pub was, you know. But the evidence they produced was completely false. You know, it was with Charlie Cray and what they said about Charlie, and who came over to tell me. You know, it was all fabricated. About this Ronnie Hart, their cousin, the twins' cousin, he was the worst one of the lot for working with the police to get a conviction, and so he falsified and said what they wanted him to say, you know. I mean, they wanted the lesser people on the firm to take responsible for major crimes, you know, and they was going to settle for fraud cases and expect them to stand up and say, no, we did this and we did that, for the serious crimes, you know, really ridiculous thing to do, you know, to think you could manipulate people that way and get them to put their lives give their lives up in prison for you, you know. It was ridiculous what they had in mind. I don't know where they got that idea from. I thought it would work. I wish I'd never met him. Only Charlie introduced me to him, you know. I wasn't eager to meet him then. When I knew Charlie years before I met the twins, and I heard all about him. I don't really want to. They want to meet you, Freddie. I want to introduce you. I'm not bothered. I wasn't bothered about meeting him.
Nipper Reed's plan was to get each firm member to turn against the Krays, and it worked.
I had about 30 different statements were made to the police, and then they was even coming into one. I was there with Charlie, Ronnie and Reggie in Brixton, and the others were in Wandsworth, but they was getting visits in Wandsworth late at night, at 12 o'clock at night. Nipper Reed was going in, and Cato, and the one who was the second in command of the squad. The murder squad, and months later they was still turning up and making statements and thinking about it, and then thinking, oh, there's a way out of it. If I agree to this or corroborate this evidence, then, you know, they got a good deal. But everybody suffered at the finish. Nobody really got treated leniently.
Instead of the two murders being tried separately, the two cases ran together, which meant court number 1 had 10 defendants.
Oh, the trial went on for 6 months. One of the longest trials that ever was at the Old Bailey, actually. It's set a record, I think. We used to get in the meat wagon with the dog handlers and stuff, and we was at the top of the stairs going down to, with all the screws all around us, the prison officers, and they said, Ronnie Craig come out with one, well, when this is all over, I'm going to get myself a young boy and go on a cruise, a world cruise. And so one of the prison officers said, well, if you save up your canteen money, he said, you'd just about have enough money to do it. And he said, oh, you think that's funny? And he turned on us, because he turned on the sixpence, Ronnie, and there was a big scuffle on the top of the stairs with the screws, and it was all pushing and shoving, nearly falling down the stairs. This before we got in the van to go up to the Old Bailey, you know. There was always something going to happen. It was like they used to try and beat the record of getting from Brixton to the Old Bailey, the drivers with the outriders and the motorcycle, this tearing up and down, and never stopped for any traffic lights, sirens going, and all London knew when we was going up to the court. And they used to change the route every day, a different route every day, and go really out of the way in another direction, down to Wandsworth, where I used to live during the war, and go up Wandsworth Road, you know, to get to the Old Bailey. It's ridiculous routes they used to take, but just in case it was ambushed, they thought it was going to be an ambush on the journey to the court or something in their minds. They used to time it so that just when the jury was coming in, and they'd just block off the whole street at the Old Bailey, and they was in doorways on their knees with gun rifles, holding about 20 or 30 people back on the pavement, while just when the van was pulling in, you know, for the jury and everything. It was all timed, helicopters overhead, and they would all stand in there showing their guns and holsters in the court, you know, and it's intimidating, you know, for anybody. Like all the jury, what we had, they had the police taking them to the supermarket when they picked the kids up from school, you know, the over-the-top protection that you can only get a conviction like that, can't you, you know. Show trial, you know, they were selling tickets to get in the public gallery. They're standing in queues outside and making the money out of it. And you used to get film stars turn up, like famous Hollywood film stars. If they was over here, they would be sitting in, because it was 6 months of it, going up and down every week. And the lawyers, they should have had a meeting because they wanted to try the Cornell case and the McVitie case with the same jury sitting there, you know. And I sat through the whole Cornell case, like a couple of other people, and their names wasn't mentioned once through the whole prosecution case. So I said, what am I doing? They're supposed to have met all the defence lawyers and had severance of the two trials. So there were two separate trials with separate juries. But of course, they're looking at me for about 4 weeks in the Cornell case. And the master was saying, well, what's he doing sitting in the dock there? His name's not been mentioned once. There's no, you know, and that wasn't. My name wasn't even mentioned once, but I had to sit there. And I said, I'm going to refuse to go in the court. I'm going to stay in my cell. And he said, don't do that. And the lawyer said, you'll upset the judge, you know, and he'll get the needle with you. I said, that's all right, but that's nice, isn't it? Threatening, intimidating me, you know, that's justice for you. Yeah? And that's how it went. And then I didn't even come into it until the right end of the McVitie case, when they said they came and when I was in bed when all that mayhem was going on, and same as Charlie was, and we both got out of bed at like 5 in the morning, later than 7 in the morning or something. And it turns out that the one who's supposed to have come over to my pub, this Hart, who's their cousin, one of their relatives, the twins' relatives, and he came to my pub, he said, and he parked. Well, where did he park? He parked on the corner, and Charlie came round and knocked on the door, which there was no knocker on the door. There's a bell at the top of the bell. You had to stand on the step to ring the bell, but he knocked on the door, and I opened the window, the upstairs bedroom window, which was turned out to be a broom cupboard that screwed and bolted, never been opened since I've been at the pub, you know. He could see round the corner. He had vision where he could sit here and he could look round that corner and see Charlie around the corner again, and he could witness Charlie knocking on my street and me going in, and then staying in my pub for 5 or 6 or 10 minutes and coming out again and driving back to the East End. And that was the evidence that got me convicted. That was all it was. It was outrageous, you know, and it was manufactured. Charlie and myself both finished up with 10 years apiece. I mean, the money it must have cost to put on that trial and the fees they were getting. The defence counsels, they had no chance of beating the trial, but they was there, you know, getting paid what their fees are every day, sitting in the Old Bailey, £600 a day, or about 2,000 quid or whatever, depending on all the lawyers. I mean, I've spent over 200 grand on lawyers in my past, yeah. We was down in the cells, we come up and get the verdict and found guilty, everyone. And when I went up, he said to me, all right, found guilty, he sentenced me to life. And the prosecution counsel, he jumped up, he said, Your Honour, you can't give him life. They changed the law in 67, I think it was. We was arrested in 68. So it was only a year or so previous to that when they could give you for knowingly, you know, that a murder's going to take place. But after the fact, didn't carry a life sentence. But he tried to life me off, and he would have done if he could have got away with it. He said, well, what's the maximum? So he said, 10 years. He said, 10 years it is, take him down. Like that, yeah. And then that, of course, Charlie went up and he gave Charlie the 10 years. It's for that visit on that morning. We was both in bed when all that was going on, just fast asleep. He imagined the doom and gloom, and they put us in one big holding cell, and of course everyone was commiserating with each other. That's nice. They come and took me out. They said, they want you, Foreman, come out. And went to the charge room. And when I went into the charge room, I've just got 10 years, and this was my birthday. And they said, my briefs are standing there, the QC and the juniors with their wigs in their hand and looking all miserable and ashen-faced. And there's all the robbery squad all in there, all chuffed as anything. And I said, Foreman, happy birthday, many returns of the day. They said, we're now charging you with the murder of Frank Mitchell. I said, what you got to say? I said, no comment. And then my lawyers went like this, don't say nothing. And I went back and told them, and so I've just been charged with the Frank Mitchell murder. And that's after getting the 10 stretch, that day. We all go back to the prison, but now they set a date for the Mitchell trial, and Reggie and Ronnie was in the dock as well, because they was accessories before the fact date they had them on, and there was just me and the twins sitting there facing the murder trial of Frank Mitchell, who was the most dangerous prisoner to escape from Rampton Mental Institution for the criminal insane. And then he escaped, and so they couldn't hold him there. They gave him the cat and the birch, and he was cutting prisoners and stabbing people and breaking their ribs with these big hugs and all the rest of it. They said they put him in Broadmoor, and when true to form, he escaped from Broadmoor, and he was on the run, and he got arrested again. This is all going over a period of years, obviously, and now he's escaped again from Dartmoor. Now, they got the army out with rifles and looking for him, shoot him on sight, lock up your women and children and your dogs and your cats and whatever, your budgie as well. The army armed guards combing the moor for him, but he was already in London by the time they hit the news, and the TV and so forth. And then now I'm charged with his murder. This is a man who's not only got a knife, a hunting knife, he's got a Luger pistol with 6 bullets, and he's going to take 6 coppers with him rather than go back now. He's escaped 3 times. He's never going to get out of prison. He's going to die in prison, This is what he's got in store for him. But then all of a sudden, he turned into the gentle giant. Depressed, and he fed the ponies. He used to take his food from the Dartmoor and feed his own food and feed the ponies and ride them. And then he used to mend all the prisoners' radios with his big hands and fingers. And he was a right, lovely little boy, like model prisoner. He changed completely. It's amazing how the press can change their minds when they want to, Well, I had to deal with it, didn't I? And it was a long drawn out. But the jury was all from Tower Hamlets and that. I think they'd seen enough and knew what had happened in the previous trial. My defence was put together properly this time, and not relying on chance, And of course I was found not guilty, which I was highly delighted and pleased about that. And but I still had the 10 years sentence to do. So I spent up in Leicester Prison in a special unit up there. When I arrived there at Leicester, Charlie Richardson come home for the judges. I said, you'll be about another hour. We'll have a cup of tea ready for you, Fred. You hungry? We'll make you a sandwich and all that, Charlie. And it was, it's nice welcome. And it won't be long now, mate. They'll open you up. And I was locked up for a few hours in this unit. It was only 7 prisoners in this one unit. It was a prison within the prison, again, like the one in Brixton, only more secured. They reinforced the walls and the floor. It was completely over the top, you know, because she wasn't going nowhere. I never saw another prisoner apart from the people I was in that wing with, and I never saw a blade of grass or leaf of a tree or a bird. The only bird I saw was a budgery, a budgery guard, you know. And that was like that all the time. Every night they used to come round. Every 15 minutes, they was coming around with the bolts, rattling the bolts, checking all the locks and the bolts, which makes a right racket. You're supposed to be asleep. And that hot water pipe was lukewarm. There was no heat in it at all. You know, you could hold it and it was throwing off no heat at all. And we put a jug of water there, and that was ice, frozen in the winter with solid ice. That's how cold it was. And you laid in the bed, if you put the sheet over your ears and your face to keep warm, right, and your hands in to keep warm, they would, through the Judas hole, they'd be banging on the door, flashing the light on and off, flying off. We had the blue light on as well, but put the main light, that light flashing on and off, and show your hands, show your face. Now, where you gone? Where you been? You know, you ain't gone nowhere. You're laying in bed. But you had to show your hands and your face. And anyway, the governor comes in with the chief, with all the braid and on the hat, and the chief of the screws. And he had a reputation with all the other prisoners, being really nasty governor. You know, wasn't one of the most popular governors in the prison system. But he said to me, if it's true what you're supposed to have done, Foreman, he said, you need a medal the size of a dustbin lid. I might as well drop dead if that is not the truth. I said, well, how do you expect me to answer that, Governor, you know? I said, like, I've got no comment, like all my statements, no comment, no comment, no comment. But he said, is there anything I can do for you? I said, I don't, nothing that's done any better than what the other prisoners are getting. I said, I don't want no special treatment. I said, but I said, come and see me in a week, just time to come down. I said, I might have a few ideas, you know, and laughed it off and made a joke of it. And sure enough, I finished up with it. The governor got the kitchen to send us over the food so we could cook it ourselves in the kitchen. And he used to send us over the tins of tomatoes to make our spaghetti bolognese and a lump of cheese, which is not eating prison food. And he got his local butcher to ordered joints of beef and steaks, and he was getting so we could buy through our canteen, and he was really helpful. And so I've got the boys to write. Got a letter. I got the boys to sign it, and thanking the butcher for his, help and generosity, because he never overcharged us or anything. And we had a good relationship. And so we finished up. He got a fella from the council who was a chef, who came in and taught us how to cook. And when he cooked the meal, of course, we all ate the meal that he prepared for us. So this is the favours he did, you know. Well, Reggie was with me, and Ronnie went to Durham. That was further north. The next time I come in contact with Ronnie was in his coffin at his funeral. I never saw him again from when he left Brixton that day. But Reggie was with me, and he wouldn't come out of his cell and come and watch there was a television, to shared television with the other prisoners. But he never socialised. He was locked in his own thoughts and writing letters and still trying to make a few quid, money orientated. And he wouldn't let Charlie do anything. He was the main one, Reggie. He was thought he was the brains of everything, which he wasn't. They used to get these feelings, and they knew there was something wrong. And sure enough, Ronnie would be miles and miles away in another prison or down in Baltimore, and he's having a bad day, and he would feel it, It was weird. That was weird. They had this strange thing that he knew, I've got to ring him, mate, there's something's wrong, I've got to ring him, got to phone up to Nick and all that. And it would be right, there was a bit of trouble, or Ronnie had kicked off or got himself into trouble. He smashed a guy with a bottle of, they come out of the cell covered in, looked blood, but it was a bottle of tomato sauce he'd hit him with, so everyone, it's a terrible state he's done to this fella. But things like that, he'd have a bad turn if he's never kept up the medication, because he wasn't, mentally stable, Ronnie. He had these terrible moods, and Stemetal was this drug he was on, and it's very powerful stuff. And without that, one particular night, Wally Garlick, one of the firm, come over to pick me up at the pub, and Ronnie wanted to see me urgently. I said, oh, it's urgent, all right, I'll come. All right. And he got in his car and went over to East London. So when I walk in the kitchen, there's Clark, his wife. There was an elderly couple, and she's making tea and sandwiches, and she looked around and she was shaking, And then I walked into the living room, and there all the usual suspects are sitting around the room, and Ronnie is pacing up and down like a caged tiger with his braces on and just puffing his moons, What's it? I said, what have you got me over here for? What's the problem? So he won't tell me. He's just walking up and down, puffing on his cigarette, really in a fucking state. I said, somebody tell me what I'm here for, He said, he's going to shoot this fella who I knew. I said, he's a good guy, Billy Gentry. He's still alive today. I said, what? He's going to bring him here and shoot him, and he's got a gun in his trousers. And he's going to bring him over. He sent four of his firm out to pick him up and bring him back on some pretense or other that he wants to see Ronnie, or Ronnie wants to see him. And when he comes in there, he's going to shoot him, kill him. I said, that ain't going to happen. I said, what do you got me here for? So it's to try to clean up your mess after you've done the deadly deed. You want me to clear up after you, And I said, it ain't happening. I said, I'm not doing it. I said, and there's nothing that can be done anyway. It's impossible. I said, you can't just do things like that off the top of your head, And I prevented that happening. If they'd have come back, they was looking for him all over the clubs and pubs. And they went out four-handed to bring him back. And when he brought him back, he was going to be a dead man, But this is one of his mad, crazy ideas. So I got him quieting down on his sit down and relax. And everyone in the room started to relax and sit down, and you could see he was getting calm now. And all of a sudden, I said, well, I'm going now. I said, I've got to get back to the pub, and I've got to shut the pub up, and do the till and all the rest of it. So I just turned round to go, and the doorbell rings. I went, oh. He's up out of his, now he's back on alert again now. He's back in his mood. And he's getting all excited. And everyone in the room's going, oh, for God's sake, they don't want to see it happen, do they? But they can't stop it, And they got to do as they're told, Well, I said, I'll answer the door, I'll open the door. If he's there, Bill, I'm going to tell him to run for his life, But they looked at me and they winked at me like that. And they said, we couldn't find him, Fred. We're on here now. He said, do you look down the windows? Do you look down this club? Did you look down there? And they said, we looked everywhere. He's not out tonight. He's just not out. He's not out. So he said, I said, that's it. You don't need me anymore. I said, I'm on my way. I'm off now. Said, oh, everybody, I'm out the door. Couldn't get out there quick enough, And then I drove back to the pub. I said, don't you ever do that to me again. I said, you lure me onto one of them meets like that. If you see what's going on, you can't fucking find me. Excuse me. You can't find me. I said, don't you ever set me up like that again. I had the hump with him because he should have marked me card what was going on, you know. I think that some students did a test. They had these rats in a cage. They had about 2 rats in there. And then they put another one in, and then they put another one in this small space. And the more they put in, and then they finished up, they was all tearing into each other and ripping each other apart. Not comparing that humans to rats, but after a while, people get on your nerves that they're making a noise splashing when they're washing where we had to wash. And you was cambered up with 2 screws at that end, 2 screws at that end, and 2 screws in the centre. And cameras in the recess in the toilet, you had the cameras on you. There was nowhere you could hide in this submarine wing, as they called it. And then when you went on exercise, you went a chamber. You open one door, you go into a chamber. They lock that door behind you with 2 screws in with you, and then they open that second door, and then you step out into the exercise yard, which was a cage in the corner of a prison. And the walls was the highest walls in the prison system. And on the other side is all cobbled stone. So if you went over and you dropped, you'd break your ankles, and that's how it was built from, you know, in Victorian times. You had the no man's land, which was all wired up with alarm systems between the cage and a cage over the top, if helicopters and come over and try to rescue you and all that sort of thing. And that's where you were, just a concrete little cage like that you see in a zoo, you know. There was nothing to do. It's just complete boredom, you know. But we did get a television in there, so we had a little 2 cells. One was turned into a kitchen with a hatch in it, and the other one was sitting down for the 7 of us to watch television, you know. But when you live in that close proximity, coming out, getting up every morning and seeing the same faces all the time, and all their little habits to become magnified, you know, until you can't stand it any longer. You want to get your hands around their throat, you know. When you put people in those conditions, and especially with, you know, depriving you of a good night's sleep, you're irritable when you don't get a good night's sleep. And that would go on every night. As they left your cell, they would go to the next cell and do exactly the same. Oh, show yourself, rattle the pipe. They know they've only done them a few hours ago, but they've got to rattle all the bars and bolts and things, you know. Even they were the first ones to start writing books. Reggie was the first one to talk about eels and fishes where the bodies went in the channel. He wrote about it in his book years and years before it, you know, it became an accepted thing. But at the end of that 10-year sentence, I had 9 months left to do, and I was still on Cat A. And unfortunately, one of the Barry brothers who gave evidence for a week was arrested for armed robbery, was in Wormwood Scrubs, and I was on escort because when you went on exercise, you had dog handlers and several screws around you, and they changed the exercise yard every day, so you never went to the same one like 2 days running. And as I went through this exercise at the other side of the prison, he was there on remand, and he was like kicking a ball around with some other prisoners on the concrete yard. There was no sports fields in the Scrubs. And they had remand prisoners there. They never used to, but they was getting overloaded with Brixton, so they was putting remand prisoners there. And I saw him, and I just couldn't help it. You know, I broke from the escort and attacked him in the middle of the exercise yard, and we wound up with a big pile of bodies with screws, and the other guys who was with me, those lifers and long-term prisoners, 14, 15 years, you know, a couple of they joined in, and it was one big heap of bodies and dogs biting our houses and everything in the middle of the exercise yard. That's just before Christmas, and shirts were ripped off and all showing our torsos, sort of thing, you know. It wasn't a pretty sight. And I finished up down the block all over the Christmas. About 3 months I spent down the block over it, and bread and water and stuff that they used to do, you know, on special diet, you know, 3 days on, 3 days off and all that. And they'd lock up all the time, you know, banged up 24 hours. That went on right over the Christmas into the new year, you know. Buster was there, I was on the table 4. It was famous, this table, with all the notoriety on there's 300 prisoners, and we was one end of the wing, and the riff-raff was down the other end, you know, all the dodgy, you know. You had to do 5 years to be in there and over, otherwise you didn't get in the D wing. So we had plenty of clout there, and it was mentioned in the Home Office about Table 4, which was because it was like running the prison wing, you know. They'd always come to like say, "Wait, what's the problem? Come sit down here. What's the trouble?" And tell you, you know. And they're putting the pressure on. Someone's being bullied, or you know, forcing them to get money out of the canteen, or owe them some snout they borrowed and never paid it back. We was doing it all the time, you know, sorting it out. Most prisons are on the star system with the centre, and they go off to the centre, the circle, so they can, the chief or the governor can look, or the prison staff can look down each wing and see what's going on, if there's anything's happening. But this one was in blocks, rubber scrubs, that's how it was built. And but the trouble was that when the kitchens was in the furthest block, and they had to bring the food from the kitchens right across the yards of all the other blocks to get to our D wing, OBCD. And the time we got it, it was freezing cold, you know. So anyway, we had to kick off about that. They all rioted it, but we stopped them smashing up the toilets. They get their wildies up and they start going berserk, and anything they can smash, they smash, and they're doing their own. You know, your television, you're never going to get another television for 6 a year or something. So why smash the television up? Why smash the toilet up when people want to use the toilet? There wasn't enough toilets anyway, and toilets were out of use. You'd have 3 toilets there, and only one working out of the 3 toilets, you know. Never used to get fixed, or no money spent on them, you know. And the people breaking their ankles on tiles in the shower room, falling over, and that rotten the place was, you know, terrible state. I just tell you, I've got 9 months left to do, so all of a sudden I'll get a visit and they said my father was ill at the time, and they was going to take me off to Cat A. And my wife come up and said, "You'll be off Cat A shortly," you know. And then when I'd done it, when I had to set about that fellow on the exercise yard, and now all of a sudden I'll get a visit. I think, oh, it's bad news, because I go into the administration block. And they took me over there, these 2 screws out the laundry. I worked in the laundry with Jimmy Hudson and Buster. We all worked together in the laundry. It's the best job there. You get all clean underwear and clean socks, and look after all the other prisoners who we liked, you know, they're clean stuff. In Wandsworth, I got nicked and put down the block over an extra pair of socks. I should not have had that extra pair of socks. I got nicked for that. That's the difference with prisons, you know. But I'll go over to the administration block. I walk in, it's empty room. I sit down at the table. The 2 screws shut, lock the door behind me, and also the door across the other side of the room opens up. Two guys walk in, straight away I knew who they were. 2 coppers, yard coppers, detectives, inspectors, and these 2 coppers sat, as they come and sat down, I what's this all about, you know? I think I'm going to see the chaplain, to be honest, because my father was like that, you know. I thought I was going to bring some bad news, you know. Well, this is bad news. We want to investigate in the disappearance and the shooting of Ginger Marks. I've got nothing to say to you, and I don't want to talk to you. Get me out of here. Go over to the door, bang on the door, 2 screws are out there. Open this door, I'm saying to him, I swear, I lost my temper a bit. And they opened the door, and And I said, get me back to the laundry. She set me right up here. And they said, we never did it for me. They was apologising to me. And as they take me away, they said, oh, you'll be all right, Foreman, you'll be all right. And I sure was, because I was taken out afterwards to Harbour Square and officially charged with the murder of Ginger Marks. And I got 9 months left to do of a 10-year sentence. Frank Mitchell, you know. So it was never-ending journey, you know. And I thought, when am I going to get to the end of this? And of course, my wife and the family was really upset. So now I'm going at Old Street Magistrates Court for the committal proceedings. And the two coppers got in the dock. They said, when we interviewed Foreman, and they got the bit of paper, his answer was, we told him we was making inquiries about the shooting and disappearance of Thomas Ginger Marks. And they said, he answered, oh, that bastard Evans has grasped me up. One of these days I'll shut him up for good. And that was the verbal they done me with. They got in one after the other, and my counsel cross-examined them, and they both said the same thing, you know. And now, instead of going, the parties was being prepared for me to go home and celebrate, I'm now back in Brixton again, after like 7.5 years, I suppose, nearly 8 years. Back in that little cottage in Brixton with the same cells as I'd been 8 years beforehand, you know. And there's still the same bath there with the stains in it, and nothing had changed, you know. It was just like going back in time again. And then, of course, I was on trial for a long trial there again. And we went in the number 2 court, and we went through the whole prosecution case right to the end of it. And I thought, that's pretty weak, this case, yeah, because I had 3 other people with me in the dock with me, and it's innocent people. And a guy stood up in the jury and said, I can't continue with this trial because he said, I have certain knowledge, and I know some of the defendants, and made out some fanny it was, and got a retrial. And he was a copper. They slipped a copper in the jury, and because they didn't pan out as they planned it to, the case, what they presented. We was just going to start the defence, you know, it's the end of the prosecution's case. So we went back to Brixton, and then we was moved from the second court to the number 1 court again. So we went through the whole prosecution case, and it was a lot different, you know, much tightened up, the prosecution case, in the second trial. So I had to go sit for another trial with that. It was very stressful times, as you can imagine, not only for me, but for my family as well. And they was all suffering with me, you know. Of course, I was found not guilty. It was just a skeleton of a man. I mean, if he had, I just think he had cancer. I don't know what the medical report on him was, what he actually died. I know he was going to the toilet a lot, stomach cancer or something like that, bowel cancer or whatever. But when he was in Maidstone, I was in the gym with him, and you know, and working out, and we had a punch bag there, and he used to punch, but his muscles had gone and his body weight had reduced, you know, to he was skeletal really. But he still used to go over there and try and skip and shadow box and punch the bag and things like that. But he wasn't, you know, he was not half the man he was before. Everyone treated him, respected him, because it's the people around him, you know, is the security, isn't it? And the name and the reputation, and, you know. When I was finishing off a sentence in Maidstone, coming up to the end of a sentence I was serving, that was another 10-year sentence for another trial and stuff. They said they wanted me to carry the coffin, so I said, okay. Now it's going to cost arm and a leg for the security to take me there. And I said, and they want me in handcuffs. I said, how can I carry coffee in handcuffs on? I said, please, give me a bit of break. And so they went back to the parole board and they said, oh, we'll give him a week off. So I got a week off my sentence just to go to the Ronnie's funeral and carry the coffin. The funeral was a big turnout. Well, it was a coach and horses right through the east end of London to the cemetery. It took forever to get there, you know, with the horses and all that. And I know everyone had a drink, and then in the car with me, they was breaking their neck to go to the loo. They said, oh, we'll never make it, we'll do it out the window. I was like, anyway, and then the bullets jumped out. It was going so slow, they were starving. They said, well, just cooks his pie mash shop, they'll jump out and get some pies to eat on the way. Anyway, it was, you know, it was, had its moments, you know, in the real tragic events, there's a bit of humour somewhere, isn't there? So it went off sweet as a nut then. Oh, I was there when he died. He died, I had my arm around him. Because when I got in there, that Berta, but she got the right hump when we went, Johnny Nash and myself and Wolf Pine. We turned up there and walked into the room. Twice we'd got tickets even. We bought tickets to go and she didn't want us to go. And then Wilf said, I think you better go because, you know, he's on his last legs. So we said, well, okay, well, we'll go. So we sort of, if you say gate crashed it, we just went into the room where he was. Nice view out there on the canal at the back. And, you know, a few days of pleasantness in his life. But he looked terrible when he was laying in the bed. He was like a skeleton. We was having a conversation, and I said, because he bought a house down in Norwich for his parents. They bought this house, didn't they? So I was just down the road. He was asking how we got there and having a comment, chatting away, really. He was making an effort. It was an effort for him. But he was trying to, you know, be sociable. And then all of a sudden the doctor came in and said, oh, he's got to have his injections or whatever. And so we said, you'll have to leave the room. So he said, you're not going to keep, you don't go in there, you're coming back. He said, you're coming back. We said, yeah, Reg, we're just going up the bar, have a drink, we'll come back down afterwards, you know. So we're not going. So he said, don't let it go, you know. So we go out, have a drink, and 5 or 10 minutes, we go down. I don't know if it's like the old coup de grace where you take the 6 injections and that's the last one, you know. I just said, let it go. And then all of a sudden he went, that's how he went. All these funerals are the same now, and you go there to show your respects, but there's people there you've never seen before in your life, and they never knew the people who's died, but they think they get a picture in the paper, so they all turn up, you know. I don't like it at all. But there you are. When I go home, it's not like that when I pop me clogs.
We hope you enjoyed this video on the life of former London gangster Freddie Foreman. If you'd like to see more interviews with the Underworld's most notorious gangsters, then make sure you subscribe and hit the like button down below. We'll see you next time.